Alright, it's the 10th day of the month of December 2024. Welcome to it. You are tuning into the NewsDesk right here on television, where we inform, impact and inspire you. As always, during the day, during Tuesday and Thursday, we gather around this desk rather to make sense of everything that has been making news and everything that you have been talking about. And this week, today, is no different, as we're bringing you conversation that has been sparking a lot of headlines around the African continent and also around the South African region. As we dive into today's news cyclone, the South African Communist Party made two headlines as they are expressing their outrage over the deportation of Janusz Walus, while others also setting the stage for their potential going into the 2026 local government elections. We'll dive straight into that. And then we're also going to go behind the headlines. My co-host and I, Xolile Mazibuko, are going to look into the stories that you have been talking about, giving our news commentary onto everything that we have been talking about. And then we are also going to be looking into the Ghana political landscape as it shifted to the triumph return of John Mahama as president in the landslide victory. We're definitely going to be taking a look into that. And then in the lead, the 16 days of activism campaign concludes today. And as it concludes, we are going to be bringing you that conversation around the in-depth and social worker and also life coach on how to create safer communities and also open up for meaningful and to combat gender-based violence in our country. And then finally, in other news segment, my news editor and also lifestyle editor, Samugelo, will be joining us to take a look at the day's X-trend, right? What is it that has been trending on the Twitter streets? It definitely has to be hashtag Jayz, and then he'll be definitely coming up to contribute about those allegations and also talking about those facts around that. Let's start with the big story. Right, reporting live from Johannesburg, Soweto. A very good evening to you. I am Kagiso Sithole. Let's begin with the big stories that we've been tracking for you this evening. The first one definitely has to be around the SACP's disappointment upon Walus' deportment. As we all know that Walus is one of the people who assassinated Chris Hani. The South African Communist Party and the family of the Chris Hani are calling for an inquest into the 1993 assassination of the former SACP leader. This follows the deportation of Janusz Walus, Hani's convicted killer, back to Poland after his release on parole. This has sparked a lot of questions and a lot of tensions, and also looking into the fact of how this deportation was happening. I remember the minister in the presidency, Khumbudzo Mchabeni, came out to talking about the fact that they are going to deport Walus into Poland there, as we all know that he assassinated Chris Hani. And also the wife, Dimpho Hani, had a lot of complaints around the fact that why is the government doing what it's supposed to do. She was reiterating the fact that the government might be actually bringing back what they are trying to heal from, what they've been trying to move away from, and that is what we are seeing here. And Dimpho was definitely taking out some remarks, and the SACP says that this decision rubs salt into the wounds of Hani family, while some argue that it raises deeper questions about the justice system, right? Walus definitely has played a key role, in playing, in making sure that he goes to jail for his attempts his assassination to Chris Hani for over 3 decades now. And it raises a question around what the justice system has to do, because we're looking at a lot of people such as let's take a look at the fact that Pistorius was also one of the people who definitely took it into parole and was removed after he killed his girlfriend then. But a lot of people are asking themselves about the justice system there that is happening there, and to how is it formalized and how are people definitely looking into it. But we'll definitely look into those accounts and look into what resonates with that. And the SSAP Secretary General Solima Paila was with the Newsroom Africa's Olimgambi, and this is what he had to say regarding this whole deportation of Walus. Let's listen in.
But we now also know, very well, the question of Mazibuko and others the ANC step-aside policy has been weaponized, and it's also been used by factions as well to deal with the cadres that they don't like. So they throw allegation against you, you get charged, and there's no completion of your charge for 2-3 years, and sometimes after that you are not found guilty. And that's a problem.
That is Xolile Mapaila just reiterating some of the facts that, sometimes you do not just you fight to making sure that as the country, to make sure that justice is served, but what they've done there is something else. Another controversial thing that was sent out by the SACP has to definitely be about the fact of the fact that Janusz Walus was in the mix of Poland celebrating his return, whilst we're having mixed reactions here in South Africa that this person killed one of the leaders that wanted to change and shape the country. But we are seeing that Janusz Walus in his country in Poland, he is going to be accepted and he is going to be celebrated by some of the members there in Poland, wishing him a very steadily return there. And that is very controversial. In an interview from Newsroom Africa, the SACP also reacts again onto the deportation of Janusz Walus. Let's listen in.
And we expressed our concerns that while we appreciate the fact that the government this time around reached out to the Hani family and the SACP, and we commended them for that, we also expressed concerns that it was on the eve of the convicted assassin's parole coming to an end. The meeting started at 8 p.m. last night, and the convicted assassin's parole was coming to an end at midnight last night. So you can see there was just a limited time between that information session.
Right, that's the SACP spokesperson there reiterating some of the words that I've been saying, that the fact that the SACP, has sent remarks around the fact that Chris Hani's killer has been sent out, and says that this strategy could mark a significant shift in South Africans' politics ahead of the 2026 local government election. How will this impact South Africa? Right, we're also looking at the fact that the SACP came back to saying that they are going to be running independently ahead of the 2026 local government election. Xolile Mapaila reiterated this fact that they are running for it in its 5th National Congress. The South African Communist Party will deliberate on contesting elections independently. This move comes after years of internal debate about balancing its identity while remaining part of the ANC-led alliance. The strategy marks a significant shift in South African politics ahead of the 2026 elections. And also Xolile Mapaila was also reiterating that in a conversation with Newsroom Africa, to saying that the fact that they are going to be looking into other factions in making sure that they help citizens to get the picture and the full view in ahead of the 2026 local government elections. And another reason why they're doing this is the fact that the ANC didn't consult them ahead of the government national of unity that they took earlier after the 2024 general elections in May.
And I'm glad that in the Communist Party this remained closely with the political leadership. Even our district level leadership, because they were part and parcel of the team that took this decision, and it didn't leak out for almost a year. I don't know what kind of journalism we have in this country, but they can't pick up this.
All right, that is Xolile Mapaila just reiterating some of the things that the general public and the media didn't pick up ahead of what they are preparing to be the 2026 general elections as they are running for it, remarking that this statement is a political move for the 2026 local government elections. Right, onto the story now. News making headlines into the African soil now definitely has to be the 2024 Ghana election elections, making sure that President John Mahama makes a comeback and what lies ahead. This comes after John Mahama wins Ghana presidential elections in a historical comeback over to Ghana, where former President John Mahama has been re-elected in landslide victory. Over results confirm Mahama's won by 56.6% of the vote compared to Vice President Mahumudu, who won by 41.6%. Those are the results that are coming out from Ghana there, and we saw that the opposition party didn't make quite a very quite extensive role in making sure that they win over this election. But the president-elect definitely reiterated the fact that this will not be an easy task ahead of these elections, as he'll be preparing himself to making sure that he governs with policies that will strengthen political reforms, policies that will make sure that there is better health care, policies that will make sure that there is housing, proper housing and shelter ahead of the 2020 as he runs for the presidency, as he was there. Looking at some reports in the afternoon, one thing that I saw being reiterated there was the fact that the president has been in his office and he was welcomed by many church organizations such as the Assemblies of God, where were they reiterating as he was having lunch with some of the party members there as they were having some discussions. And he also addressed the nation ahead of his victory, coming back as the NDP, coming back into making sure that there is better results and better achievement within the country of Ghana. Let's listen into some of the things that he had to say in his victory speech.
The creator of heaven and earth, for protecting and preserving us through this whole campaign period. And to paraphrase the psalmist, I also give thanks to God for preparing a table before me
All right, that is John Mahama there, the president-elect for Ghana. They're just reiterating some of his gratitude to the people of Ghana ahead after he had won the elections by 56.6%. The NDP made sure that they take these elections wisely. NDC took parliamentary seats of 183 seats, and then the NPP took 76 parliamentary seats, and then the IND took only 4 seats there. And that is what we are seeing there being made and being reiterated ahead of the results there. Also, again, this result has been seen as the balance of power coming out into other ways of the institution there. The NDCP supporters also were out there as showing that the NDPC took over 6 out of 7 seats in the Savannah region. In other regions, and speaking of region, we saw that in the Abekuma region, we saw that there has been a lot of tensions that are happening there this afternoon. Tensions arise in the Albahuma region there, as we saw a lot of people protesting ahead of the elections. A lot of the supporters of the NDC were saying that the halt of this result might be showing that there might be people who want to rig the election results, and these people might be found in a fact that they are, they might be tampering with the election results. And we saw this afternoon that supporters of the NDC in the Al-Bakuma region were out there breaking doors, making sure that they enter into the results center and making sure that they push officials there to count down the results center. And this is what some of the reports that came in had to say about this.
From outside, they have managed to enter the EC regional office, the Greater Accra EC regional office, and they are forcing their way inside the collation room to put pressure on the electoral commission, to pile pressure on them to declare the results for Ablekuma North constituency. Hundreds of them are here chanting, screaming, calling
That is a reporter from TV3 Ghana News as they were doing coverage ahead of the 2024 Ghana election, reiterating the fact that people from the Al-Bakuma North region results there have been held, and the NDC members they are out there making sure that they're breaking doors and making sure that officials count the results and there is no rigging. I remember asked our African news editor Sean about this, that are we going to experience some violence, and he said that there was not going to be violence that we are seeing, such as in Mozambique, that is still continuing, seeing that South Africa closed down its Limpopo border this week. Baba Krisi, the transport minister, came out reiterating some of those facts into making sure that, you know, there is rather safer and also commuting around the border there, as we are seeing this happening in the African region. But of course, the NDC making its comeback, winning most of the regions there. We are seeing the Savannah region, they have won 6 out of 7 seats there. And also another thing that we are seeing, that the irate youth besiege around the guest head or quarters office. The youth were out there protesting there. We'll make sure that we bring those results for you in order for you to make sure that you understand that. But many political analysts have been reiterating to saying that these results show that there is balance in power, and also the coalition center results there have been put aside there. We definitely sure want to see this. What does this mean for Ghana's future and the political economy landscape? I wonder how you view the story. Make sure that you let us know, and let us know of your thoughts using the hashtag the NewsDesk right here on television, where we inform, impact and inspire you. All right, you are up to date with the big story that we have been tracking for you this evening. More of your breaking news and fresh views coming up on ahead of the show. Speaking of breaking news and fresh views still ahead on the show, let us bring you today's poll question that we are asking you ahead of the conversation that we are going to be having in the lead right here on television. We are asking you this question: do you feel safe discussing gender-based violence in your country? Do you feel safe in making sure that there is gender-based violence in your country, in your community? You have 3 options there, and your options are as simple. There. However you feel it is: 1, yes, or 2, no, or 3, I don't know. If you haven't engaged with that poll question, please do go on all our social media platforms, on our stories, making sure that you do engage with that social media poll. Vote on all our social media platforms ahead of that conversation that we'll be having with you in the lead. As I did mention, that ahead of the lead, we are going to be joined by a social worker and also someone who is a life coach. Bulelwa is going to be joining us as we try to make sense of how can we make our communities better and safer in making sure that we engage in open dialogues around gender-based violence. Right, those poll results are going to be here before the end of the conversation and ahead before the end of the show tonight. But just showing you of how the results are polling in so far. Do you feel safe discussing gender-based violence in your community? 33% are saying yes, they feel safe in talking about gender-based violence in their community, and 67% are saying I don't know where to start. Many saying that they don't know where to start, but don't worry, we will answer that question with you ahead of our conversation with Bulelwa, as we are going to be discussing everything around gender-based violence as we're closing down and shutting down the 16 days of activism campaign for 2024. All right, that and more coming right here on the news desk as we shift focus and give you more breaking news and fresh views. That conversation with Bulelwa coming at around 20 to 8 this evening. You don't want to miss that conversation. All right, more breaking news and fresh views as we step into Behind the Headlines. of the evening, where we go all around your digital newspaper platforms. We go around your news articles to try to make sense of whatever that has been making waves across our news platform and our news cycle. And to join me, as always, is my co-host Xolile Mazibuko, to give us a sense of everything that has been making news, and most importantly, everything, how you sharing your views right here. There has been a mixed 2 rounds of the hottest headlines. Trust me, a mix of drama around the economy and also around the current affairs. But to kick us off, Xolile is here with our first headlines. Xolile, good evening and welcome to the NewsDesk.
Good evening to our followers. Good evening. Happy Tuesday. It is that Tuesday where we are here to inform and impact people. Well, let's just jump straight into the first story, Kagiso. All eyes are on Danny Jordan, the South African Football Association president, who has disappointed a lot of people. Well, today he was set to launch an application where he was supposed to appear in court for charges of fraud and theft against him. And he wants those charges to be dropped. Of course, Jordan and his accused are arguing that the delays in their case are due to ongoing legal battles, and those all of those battles and those legal delays are so unreasonable. So they want everything thrown out of the court. Now, Danny is accused, right, of fraud and charges amounting to 1.3 million rands. That's a huge amount. I don't know what your take on this. And considering for how long he's been in this position, for him to end it like this, I don't know. What do you think?
It's a very tragic one, because looking at the person that has been in this field for quite some time, and now we are seeing that he is ending off his career in such a blunder moment, and many might question the fact that did he really do this ahead of knowing the fact that he has been going around winning this CEO bench for some rounds now, and a lot of people have been asking that why hasn't he been contested in this position. So probably these allegations are true ahead of that, but I was also listening to some court proceedings this afternoon ahead of that, as they were doing some arguments there, and the lawyer was arguing the fact that the same people that reported Danny Jordan are the people who wanted to vie for the seat of the presidency of SAFA. It's a very challenging one, because this case has been a cloud over SAFA for months, and the timing couldn't be worse for local soccer as it struggles with credibility issues on social media. There's definitely frustrations from fans on how the long-going drag and battles will be. Let us know how you think, and what should Danny Jordan stay on with this? I don't know. Yeah.
Absolutely, Kagiso. And I argue with the fact that maybe people are trying to take him off his position. I mean, he wouldn't be accused if there's nothing. So there must be something there. Someone wouldn't take you to court if there's absolutely nothing that you'll be fined with. But we'll see as the court proceedings continue, and obviously we'll definitely keep our viewers updated with that story. What do you have on your side, Kagiso?
Definitely interesting developments that we are seeing there, and hopefully that the law will take its course. Speaking of law taking its course, we are seeing some ridiculous things happening in South Africa. As we all know that there is still ongoing rescue that is happening. I don't want to even say that it is a rescue at this point, because the very same people that are being taken out to be rescued are the very same people who still go back into those shafts after being rescued. So it goes to show that really there is a lot that still needs to be done. There is a lot that still needs to be focused in, that rather we need to be focusing on as a country. Speaking of frustration, here's a headline that got the mining industry on the edge. Illegal miners occupying the abandoned Stilfontein mine are now asking for more demands. It has been nearly a month since Police Minister Senzo Mkhunu task team launched a high-stake operation to rescue the miners, but the situation remains tense at this point. And we saw some of their recommendations and what they needed. I remember last week they said that they need a sorghum and a candle and also impepo to do some cleansing ceremonies, knowing that the fact that some died under there in those shafts. And then another shocking one that came this week. has to be the fact that they're asking for mayonnaise, they're asking for tomato sauce, and they're also again asking for detergents and bath soap. I don't know. What are your thoughts around this, Oli?
This is a tricky one, because, I think when this Zama Zama story started, my big question was, okay, so these people wouldn't be there and they wouldn't be going underground if they were not selling this gold to someone. So who are they selling this gold to, right? Or whatever they get underneath. Now, the way the government is so patient and so willing, I'm not saying they shouldn't, but they're so willing and so patient with taking care of them. It tells us good there's something fishy there. But Kagiso, it's complex balancing law enforcement and taking care of people's rights, or humanitarian needs. So it's that balance that, it's getting many South Africans talking. So I don't know, Kagiso, with all the demands, can we end this? Can we end this? I mean, we reported the other day that almost 1 million rands is spent a day on focusing on this thing. By now, we should have progressed. By now, we should be somewhere. I mean, 1 million rands a day is a lot of money. Can we push to the end, because this is enough now? I did see the demands. I did see that they would demand things like beef and chicken. It's ridiculous now. As much as they do need to be taken out of the ground, but these demands are starting to, I don't know, man. They don't make sense. They don't really make sense, And I feel like the government is a bit slow. So it's a tricky one, Kagiso. Hence I said it, balancing law enforcement and people's rights. It's quite tricky, but I just don't understand why the government is so slow in making sure this thing comes to an end. But because it's getting ridiculous. South Africans are talking. There is something fishy that we do not understand. Probably the government knows better than we do. But we'll see. We'll see if all the Zamazamas will eventually come out of the ground.
Very interesting developments there, that the Zamazamas are seeking sorghum, candles, and impepo to do a cleansing ceremony underground. And also they are demanding mayonnaise, tomato sauce, and also a detergent, soap detergent. And listening to a lot of interviews, a lot of people have been sharing remarks saying that what's next for the Zamazamas? What is it that they're going to ask next? Are they going to ask for Christmas lunch? Are they also going to ask for 31st December fireworks in order for us to celebrate us transitioning into the new year? I wonder, what are your thoughts around the illegal miners that are still in the Northwest? And one thing that is shocking here, Xolile, is that in Mpumalanga last week, the SACP, miners were able to be resurfaced, all of them out of that shaft. But in Stilfontein, it was something that was started in November, but still today we are seeing people still them. And I remember Khumbuzo Mshabeni came out, the minister in the presidency, saying that we don't have time to be negotiating with criminals, but we need to definitely smoke them out. And the courts definitely said that no, these people are humans. We need to make sure that we provide basics, and these basics were such as water. This was like maheu supplies, and also porridge, like maize meal, soft porridge there. But another thing that I'm asking is that when we are taking these things downstairs, how are they going to actually maneuver? How are they going to cook? How are they going to bath with the soap that they need? They are underground where there is a lot of flammables. They want impepo where they're going to light things up. It's a very tragic one. And there has also another thing, Oli, that the community leaders in the Northwest are the ones fighting for this. I don't know.
So I heard that there are stoves there. It's actually like a house. So there's everything. They can cook, they can bath, they can do a whole lot of other things. Hence, I'm suspecting there are bigger people who actually buy this gold from these people. So hence, they're so patient with them. Hence, they're catering to their demands. I think there's something big that we don't understand, but we'll definitely just move on to the next story. Well, let's jump into the Department of Education.
Before we jump into that, Xolile, I'm seeing a comment here by Quality_SA. Hi, Quality. It's been a while. since we had you here on the news desk. Says, geez, we might as well open a shop right Liquid there. Like, I mean, who knows that there is a brothel down there, there are wives there, because they might be also requesting condoms and some preventions. We never know. A lot of interesting stuff there. But yes, definitely we'll keep you interested in those developments there. Let's move on to the second story that you have for us, which is the Gauteng Education Department.
Yeah, it's that time of the year where parents are panicking about which school, especially the grade 1 and the grade 8 parents. I know this is a very hectic time for them. Well, there's some good news. They say more than 19,000 parents whose application for grade 1 and 8 placement were complete, right? The Provincial Education Department provided an update on the placement status of more than 325,000 learners for the 2025 year, right? It says that 157,000 grade 1 learners have been successfully placed, and 167 grade 8 pupils are also taken care of. There are about 124 learners still waiting for placement. Gauteng Education MEC Matome Chilone explained that parents have from the 11th of December until the 30th of January to finalize the application. Because I think this year the Gauteng Education Department has done pretty well. I think they've pushed. The only job that's left is for parents, obviously, to apply and make sure that their kids get space. But I think this year, because in the past years with the new e-system, parents were just, struggling to navigate the system, but it seems like there's been a lot of progress, and we can see that a lot of learners have been placed. And I love it. I like the extension of the time, because from the 11th of December until the 30th of January, it's a long time. So parents must make sure that they register their children, they make sure that their children are placed, especially those who are doing grade 1 and grade 8. I love the progress. I don't know. What do you think, Kagiso?
I must say, I commend the Department of Gauteng for Basic Education with this online system process. I remember there has been glitches over the past years that parents couldn't register, parents couldn't do this, but now it has been a lot of made easier, because now parents are now able to understand how we maneuver around this. Parents are now able to understand how we move around this app and making sure that people are being assisted, even the schools themselves. But one thing that I have to say about this is the fact that even though that there has been a lot of numbers of people that have been registered into this, the department needs to make sure that there is no fraudulent information that has been sent out to those schools, because there has been a lot of forgery that we are seeing around kids being placed in certain schools, whereas people who are living close by to those schools don't even have space. Now children need to travel into other spaces across the country to making sure that they have better quality education. But I hope that the minister, or rather the MEC of Education, Madume Chilwane, will give of a better full view of how this works and also the results after the opening of the 2025 year.
Absolutely, Kagiso. We hope so. What's happening in the economic front?
Very interesting developments in the economic front, Toli, as the G20 is holding its first series right here in Johannesburg. These are the first series of meetings that they are holding. They are holding with the deputy ministers of all the countries that are part of the G20, such as Russia, such as China, such as the USA, which has sparked a lot of questions around this. The fact that will Donald Trump make his presence at the 2025 G20 summit, knowing that there has been a lot of speculations and on and go fighting across Donald Trump and South Africa. But definitely we might see him coming into the G20 next year in October. But the aim of this is to alleviate high levels of global debt and a pressing issue for many developing economies, including South Africa. And this is how basically they have been moving around and making sure that they move towards making sure that there is a better G20 governance. As we know that South Africa took over the presidency last week, President Cyril Ramaphosa welcomed a lot of, of countries and dignitaries that have been supported in making sure that the G20 goes well ahead of the 2025 meetings that we are going to be seeing happening in Johannesburg. And the Minister of Labour, the Minister of International Relations, Ronald Lamola, welcomed some dignitaries and also finance ministers from different parts of the country, and this is what he had to say.
Africa will use this G20 presidency to secure urgent progress on shared goals through several priority actions. These include strengthening disaster resilience and response, ensuring debt sustainability for low-income countries, mobilizing finance for a just energy transition, harnessing critical minerals for inclusive growth and development. As part of this effort...
Right. These are some of the priorities that they might be looking into. But the most important priority that they've set out is to make sure that they alleviate high levels of global debt and also poverty in our country. I don't know how you're weighing this.
Let me start with a comment there by Quality_ZA. He says Trump is so against the BRICS. Obviously, that's true. I mean, can you imagine the world when we no longer trade in the dollar? What will happen to the West? Of course, Pela, the BRICS is anti-West. So that's quite true to Quality. So yeah, let's move on to the lead, Kagiso.
Before we move over to the lead, another interesting thing around this has to be the fact that even though Donald Trump is against this, and he was definitely against BRICS. I remember coming out saying that if they are going to take over their own currency, he's going to increase tariffs in making sure that they will not be able to trade anywhere else in the country, and knowing for sure that this was meant for African countries to be able to trade amongst themselves easily, to be able to trade amongst themselves easily and fairer. As you all know, seeing in South Africa, some supporters there, and also some people there in our country who are foreigners use apps such as Mukuru and other apps to making sure that there is financial transformation and also financial movement across their country. So that is one of the things that we are seeing that they are trying to alleviate across BRICS. Before we go into the lead, let me give you a wrap of how the JSE closed down this afternoon. Definitely the JSE closing down in such a negative territory once again this week, all closing in the red. The JSE closed off at 78,704 basis points there, showing a drop of minus 0.4%. Commodities showing an increase there by 1.2%. That is gold trading at $2,693.25 an ounce, and the platinum is at $942.22, and Brent crude oil is at $72.14 a barrel. Taking a look quickly into the currencies, the rand, you need actually 17 rand 86 rands for you to get a US dollar, and you need 18 rand 78 cents for you to get a euro, and 22 rand 79 cents to get yourself a pound sterling, showing a drop of minus 0.5% there. That is what we are seeing in the currencies, and the JSE closing at a loss. All right, let's go into the lead. All right, indeed, in the lead this evening, we are shifting focus into looking into what is it exactly that the community needs to do in shaping and making sure that the community is safe, in preparing men and preparing also young people, and also how they can engage with those communities. In the lead, we dive deeper into issues that matter the most to you. And today we are wrapping up the 16 days of activism campaign by tackling down critical issues of gender-based violence and how we can create safer communities.
Absolutely. Joining us as a special guest, a social worker and a life coach, Bulelwa Mahola. Bulelwa, good evening and welcome. Thank you for being with us.
Good evening, Xolile and Kagiso. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Bulela, let's just jump straight into it. We know that the 16 Days of Activism campaign aims to create awareness around gender-based violence. But awareness is not enough. What practical steps can the community take to create real change?
Sorry, Claudia, I couldn't hear everything you said. I heard you saying awareness is not enough. And then what did you say after that?
No problem. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm saying that we know that the 16 days of activism campaign, it aims to create awareness around gender-based violence, right? But the awareness is not enough. From your perspective, what practical steps can the community take to create real change?
I think that we need to take personal responsibility because there's very little that we can control outside of ourselves. So as a human being, you need to ask yourself, in what ways are you contributing to violence or peace? You know, for example, we take for granted as parents that one way of disciplining your child is to shout at them, it's to hit them. But what is the impact, that the long-term impact that you are creating in that child as they grow up? You know, how are you shaping the way that they will relate to other people? How are you shaping the way that they will solve problems? How are you shaping the way that they will deal with conflict with other people? You know, so it's about taking responsibility for you yourself. Look at what can I do? You know, can I teach myself about better communication? Can I teach myself about better conflict resolution skills? Can I teach myself just how to control my own anger? You know, so if we really want to see real change, we need to stop looking at what other people should be doing, what government should be doing, and more at what we should be doing as individuals. And our collective efforts as individuals can then create change in our families, change in communities, change in society.
I love the fact that you are iterating the fact that it's an individual thing. You know, most of the time we are always pointing fingers at the government should do this, the government should do that, but it is also an individual thing. But Bulelwa, a lot of people are very disconnected into these campaigns. I mean, they look into 16 days of activism as something that is just only for this 16 days around this time of the year, and throughout the whole year we are focusing on other things. We are continuing with our old habits. But how can we make sure that gender-based violence becomes a daily commitment thing?
You know, actually, by you inviting me to this conversation, you got me to think and reflect a lot. And one of my challenges is, why are we focusing on the violence? Why are we not focusing on the solutions? You know, like, yes, we're raising the awareness about the violence, but how much are we educating people about how to relate to each other? How much are we educating families, you know, how to solve conflicts, how to solve problems, how to talk to each other? So that's been one of my questions is, can we change the focus? Because for me, I haven't seen a significant difference. I haven't seen a significant decrease in violence because of these campaigns. I'm not sure how many years we've been doing it, but I'm sure it's been more than 10 years that we've been doing this. So if it's not really yielding an impact in terms of a decrease in the levels of violence, why don't we change our focus to something else? And if you look at the statistics, normally they will say 1 in 4 people. So we're focusing on this one person who's, and it's not, I'm not saying we shouldn't focus on the one person and help that person, but what are the other 3 people getting right? What can we learn from the other 3 people that are doing things right, that are not perpetuating violence or that are not victims of violence? Why are we not changing and looking at celebrating what is working, you know, in terms of human relationships and gender relationships? I don't know if I'm making sense, but yeah, that's been one of my questions, you know, reflecting on this.
A very interesting question. Because yes,
that's a very Yeah,
we
that's a very
focus a lot on the violence, and we forget about the solutions that needs to be brought, because year in, year out, I mean, even next year it's going to be another 16 days of activism where we are still talking about the violence, where we should be talking about solutions and finding ways on how to solve this problem.
Absolutely. That is quite a provocative question. I've never thought of it that way. Now, Bulelwa, as a social worker, obviously, I think you've worked with people who have experienced, GBV. Can you just take us through this? How does gender-based violence affect the survivor's mental health, self-esteem, and relationships?
It's got a very negative effect, obviously. You start questioning yourself as a human being. You start questioning your worth. Am I unlovable? Am I, what is it about me that has caused another person to perpetuate violence against me? And the person will look down on themselves, and it will affect how they're able to connect to other people, because it affects trust, and trust is a very important element of relationships. But also the thing about it is, it doesn't just start with between partners. It starts from our upbringing. What is it that causes somebody else to think it's okay to shout at another person, or to slap a person, or to hit a person with a fist? So I think another problem that we have is that we are dealing with the symptoms, the violence that we see between adults, between partners, for me, is a symptom. We need to be looking deeper. That's where counseling comes in. That's where support groups come in. That's where therapy comes in. It takes us to the root of the problem. Because when we deal with the root, then we have less chance of seeing these things repeat themselves. But as long as we keep on dealing with just the symptoms, I feel like we're not going to make much progress going forward.
And we definitely need to make progress going forward, in making sure that, even when we look back in 10 years to come and say, actually, we did come up with solutions to kind of curb the 16 days of activism. A comment here by Babalo_Manzana saying that, a very serious conversation, really. I can imagine you as a social worker, how for you deal with such cases. How does how does this affect mental health as well? I think it goes back to the question that Oli was asking there, that how does it affect one's mental health? But let's talk about you as a social worker dealing with these cases. How do you deal with your mental health?
I think in a sense, I can say we're lucky as social workers, because from the time of your training, you are taught how to look after yourself. You are taught how to look after your mental health. So for me, I've been a social worker for more than 20 years. So 20 years of practicing self-care practices like mindfulness, like being able to not take things personal, and being able to look at solutions, being able to empathize without over-identifying with the person that you're helping. And I don't know, I guess from training, from experience, you also even learn to even have compassion on the person who has perpetrated the violence, because there's no normal human being, healthy human being, who finds it easy to just perpetrate violence against another human being. It's because they've been wounded some way, and you as a social worker, you're looking for a way of healing both sides. How do we heal the person who has been victimized, and how do we heal the person who's a perpetrator? Because in many cases, the person who's a perpetrator has been a victim as well. So I think there's a way of setting boundaries to protect yourself as somebody who's helping. And basically it's self-care, that has been practiced over time. And you're able to separate.
Yeah, it sense that you need to be practicing those. You spoke about that we need to find solutions, and we've been asking our followers also a poll question to say that do they think that they feel safe to talk about gender-based violence within their communities, and a lot of majority saying that they don't even know where to start. What advice could you give to someone who is in that position where now they need to be able to address those issues around their community?
I think that firstly, as an individual, you need to fortify yourself. You need to strengthen yourself, with knowledge, with skills. And as you practice, you become confident. And also, it's looking for opportunities in day-to-day conversations, in day-to-day interactions with other human beings. For example, if somebody says something that is derogatory towards men or towards women, to not just easily accept those comments, but to question, but what makes you say that? Why do you say men are dogs? Or why do you say women are gold diggers? We shouldn't accept generally accepted stereotypes about any gender, about men and women, about children. We should question these things. And in those micro conversations, we can start to make changes. I think also another thing that trips us up as people in general is that we look at the big impact. We want to see things changing quickly and in big ways. But the small ways that we change the way we relate to each other, those accumulate and can create a bigger change. So that's, for me, that's where we should start. It's in those small conversations within our families, within our workspaces, within churches, within, wherever you are. Start questioning commonly held stereotypes about the different genders or men or people, in general.
Absolutely. Because there are things that I believe human beings shy away from talking about them, and this should be in our everyday conversations. Speaking of creating safer spaces, what role do you think the government and the businesses have in fostering these environments? Are they doing enough work to create this environment?
Okay, I missed a part of your question again. There was a bit of a break.
Okay, I'm asking, what role do you think the governments have in fostering this safer environment where we are able to speak? Do you think the government is doing enough to help us create these spaces?
I don't think so. The government has so much power, in schools, in healthcare facilities, in communities, on television, and I just feel like they just don't use their power enough, and that's why I tend to say, let's focus on what we have control over, because who is the government? Like now, if I want to go challenge the government, who am I going to go talk to and say, do more of this or stop doing this, whereas in our smaller spaces, we are able to have more impact, and I'm not saying we shouldn't challenge government. Maybe if we're able to mobilize as a school, as a community, we can, get people who are decision makers in government departments to start thinking more and to start creating spaces, where people can have conversations, where people can feel safer, but definitely the government is not doing enough, shortly before this conversation, I just had a question, I thought the safest countries in the world, what is it that they are getting right? And the 5 things that came up was high levels of wealth, social welfare and education, as well as an effective criminal justice system and governments that maintain a healthy relationship with their citizens. So clearly those are government domain. It's up to the government to make sure that social welfare is at a high level, bridging the inequality gaps in our country, increasing the wealth of people. Because if you look at really some of the reasons that people end up perpetuating violence, it boils down to economy. If I'm a man and I don't feel that I have the power, the ability to look after my family. I can't protect my family, and yet I have this cultural pressure to protect and provide as a man. And on the other side, I can't express that I'm frustrated, or I feel sad, or I'm grieved by the fact that I can't look after my family. I'm expected to just toughen up and man up. You know, where are men supposed to take those emotions? You know, so yeah, the government definitely is not doing enough. If you look at our country and you look at these just 5 elements, they're not doing well. We're not doing well.
Very interesting elements there. You know, I'm loving this conversation that you are shifting our perspectives into something that we've never thought about, you know, this campaign. And, you know, as we are wrapping up the 16 days of activism this week, I wanna hear your thoughts and your final thoughts and message to our viewers and also people that might be watching this live and at a later stage. What is it that you want them to take, that key message at the 2024 16 Days of Activism campaign?
For me, I would say, please start looking at yourself. You know, look at how can I empower myself with information, with knowledge, to be a better communicator, to handle my emotions better, to regulate myself better, so that I am not perpetuating violence. You know, I'm not perpetuating violence in any way, in any environment I'm in, because the only person you can truly control is yourself. That's what I would like to say.
That's a very beautiful message, Sis Bulelo. Just quickly before we close, can you tell us just a bit more about your work that you do as a life coach? I saw there's some Sunday sessions for healing or whatever. And where can our followers and our viewers follow you and get in touch with your work? Because the work that you do is very important. I mean, dealing with the foundation of every human being, right? If the root is sorted, then everything else works. Tell us a bit more about your work, quickly.
Thank you, Goli. My work is focused on helping people to empower themselves, basically. You know, how to use simple tools that are available to all of us, like mindfulness and meditation and gratitude and looking after your health. You know, because other things are out of our control. So basically, counseling and coaching for me is about fortifying you as an individual so that you can successfully navigate your own life and live your life intentionally. And on Instagram, if you just search for Bulela Mahura, you'll find me.
Oh, thank you so much, Sis Bulela, for joining us. Your insights have been very added so much value into this conversation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Good night. Good night. Well, let's just move into in the other news, and Jayz has been trending. Do you know what? Do you want to know why was he trending? Let's move into in the other news. Well, we dive into the other news. Jayz has been trending for not so good reasons, though, and Samo is here to give us all the details. Samo, good evening and welcome.
Good evening. How are you guys? Always nice to be here.
Yeah.
Very easy.
Well, Jayz has been buzzing the internet. What's happening? The allegations of rape, Samo, please. I'll tell you, but what's really happening?
Well, Uchiga decided, let me not say decided, that's the wrong way. So Jayz is in cold waters in about PD and all that. He's also involved in that, apparently. So what's been happening is that, well, it's because they strike to the heart in the relationship. One, when you're a celebrity, do know that your news are going to be there. And you know, the public is always there for celebrity culture. And these people are our icons, our icons, but allegedly, it goes, the fan is hit. It goes south, because now we look up to these people and some of us, it's hard to believe with some people who work that hard can do such things. And the publicity, or a public always has their own opinion, and it comes out, and the conversation just becomes all complexity. The conversation goes left.
Interesting. So this conversation has been something that has been going on, and we've been seeing P. Diddy also going in behind the bars for this. We saw even Kelly was in a trial about some incidences that are happening there. But Cat Williams, in a podcast with Shen, in an interview there, he kind of reiterated some of these words, and we took it lightly there. And according to this interview that was 11 months ago, basically was predicting that we might find ourselves into this situation that we're in. Let's take a listen to this.
Is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is. TGJ, any of them. All lies will be exposed. That's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way. The truth is
calling out names there, sharing out that there's a lot, and hearing in these allegations that a lot of people have been implicated into this. I don't know.
It's a very strong statement, though, from Cat Williams. Samu, can I hear your take on this? Why do you think these allegations, even if unproven, resonate so much with the public?
Well, on my side, there was a time I was following this story, and then some things were offish, really. And when this allegation started happening, I was like, I said it. Because now what happened is that there was a journalist, I think in 2017, who tried publishing a story about this. And then the journalist disappeared. So my eyes started opening there. There was something about this thing. And now, allegations become something else when they hit surface on the net. There's always Twitter, and it always changes your mind on perspective on how you looked at the person when such things come out.
Absolutely.
Very
and
interesting there, because it's a whole very tricky situation. That who is it that we should trust? Because these allegations are of a 13-year-old, if we're looking into this, and there were videos circulating showing I'm not sure if they were showing true reflections of the excitement of Jayz and also P. Diddy of a room filled with teenagers there. But there's always a growing movement of people saying, I believe survivors, right? How do we balance with that principle also of, you are innocent until you are proven guilty?
That's a tricky one, Kagiso. So on one hand, we have to provide space for survivors. You don't know how true is it, or how much they're lying, and did it happen or did it not happen. By supporting them, you're making it easy for them to come up front without no fear of being silenced. And then on the other hand, we have to ensure that the process is fair to the people who are accused, because public opinion can replace justice system, but and then it also helps with transparency and accountability on whatever situation that's happening between the two clients or the individuals. Because now you will never know you'll never know who to listen to, or who's speaking the truth, or who is lying. Because these people, at the end of the day, they have money. And remember, they can silence the survivors. So some survivors, it's not easy for them to just come out and talk about such things.
That's true. That's very true. Hey, some people have money to silence everything. Now, Sam, you know how we are on social media. Hey, we are lawyers, we are judges, when we're very much, we are everything on the social media. And you know how social media can affect the story. Ne? What role does the internet play in shaping how these stories unfold?
Well, the internet amplifies everything. Let's put that on paper. With the internet amplifies everything. As a single tweet can go viral in 2 seconds, and narratives change all the time. When something is posted, when there's the new post, something new is a new narrative. And we're talking about the same thing, but now we have 500 stories over one thing. And then people start coming out now because there's a story, and now we don't know how true that is. It's very critical, not emotionally, but while waiting for information, it raises eyebrows because a lot of people don't get it, which story to listen to and which story to follow most of the time.
Very interesting developments there. We are seeing a very decisive, and also a very delicate, rather, balance that we are seeing in this shift that is happening. But we'll definitely keep our viewers updated on all those developments that are happening there around Jayz and everything. And going back to what Curtis has said, that the truth shall be revealed. So we'll be on the lookout for everything that will be revealed. Sam, thank you so much for joining us and giving us the latest in the exchange of the day.
It's always a pleasure. Bye, Sithole. Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night, Summer. Well, to our viewers, please go on the X app and share with us. What do you think of these allegations with hashtag the NewsDesk? Kagiso?
All right, indeed, Xolile, we have come to the end of the show, and that is how we wrap up the Tuesday edition of the NewsDesk. But however, we will be back on your screens live to give you more conversations that are informed, impact, and inspiring on Thursday. What's coming up on Thursday, Xolile?
Absolutely. So today's discussion highlighted everything from the importance of informing and keeping the community informed to Ghana's elections. Those are global stories. So I hope we've unpacked everything for our viewers. Well, looking ahead on Thursday, we'll dive into the human rights on our point of view segment. And we'll be joined by a guest from Right to Protest campaign. And we'll also discuss the International Day of Persons Living with Disabilities. So make sure you don't miss that out.
Yeah, definitely a jam-packed show filled for you on Thursday. That's our lot for the Tuesday edition. Make sure that you do join the conversation on Thursday as we bring you more impactful stories and also inspiring conversation. Till we meet again, it's a wrap from us right here on the NewsDesk. Until we meet again, take care of yourself. Good night.
Good night.